Okay, good morning again. Thank you for um, staying on. It's 11, so we'll get going. So once again, for those who've just joined, I'm Simon Tennant. I'm Development Director for Molonglo with the Suburban Land Agency. And today's Whitlam Local Centre Industry Briefing, I'm joined by a team of experts across SLA who are going to talk about a number of elements of this particular release to market. Thank you very much for joining us. As we sorry, I should say before we start, what I'd like to do is I'd like to hand over to Sam McDonald, who's going to do an acknowledgement of country.
Dara Nuna, Dara Nunawal. Yangu, Nalamanyan, Dunamanyan. Nunawalwari, Darawari. Dindi, Wangiralin Jin Yin. This is Ngunnawal country. Today, we are all meeting together on Ngunnawal country. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the elders. We also pay our respects to those around the country.
Many thanks, Sam. So look, before we kick off, just a couple of housekeeping things. So there is the opportunity during today's session to ask a question at any time. You'll see at the bottom of your screen there a Q&A button, so feel free to click on that and just type your question in, and then when you press enter, we'll be able to see that. We have put aside around about half an hour at the end of this particular session to address those questions, so I'm hoping that we can tell you everything we need to know. I can also advise that we're actually recording this session today as well, so that will be available to be looked at again or circulated wider if need be, and that will be sent direct to you. With respect to what we're discussing today, again, it's a very exciting opportunity for us here. The Whitlam Local Centre is a very aspirational development that this has spent a lot of time and effort on to ensure that we continue to do the best we possibly can in delivering local centres. So we will have a brief introduction of Whitlam, and we'll talk in very specific language about the actual opportunity, where the site is and the zoning. As part of this hard work that we've done in preparing this site for release is we have consulted extensively with the community and also with industry. And that has essentially allowed us to prepare what's called a place brief. And that's something that I think is becoming more commonplace, particularly in urban development circles. So we'll run through some of the elements of that as well. From that particular place brief and from the consultation with the community, that's really set the scene for the vision for this local centre. So the business as usual case of releasing local centres from previous decades has certainly passed. We are now going down a path which requires a much better urban design response and creating great places that are both viable and the community, I guess, want to not just visit, but also stay. So you'll see that in the vision, and then you'll see that that has then led to a draft design and place framework. So that document, which was part of the stage one tender release, has a lot of information in there about some of the expectations that SLA has with regards to a draft reference design. And we're joined today by Ian Wood-Bradley from SLA, who'll talk through that in a bit of detail. We'll also then cut to the chase and talk in quite specifics about the actual tender process. So yes, this is a two-stage tender. First stage currently live, and we'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll talk about the next stage as well. And as I mentioned, we've got 30 minutes for questions at the end of it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Simon Cox, who's the Development Manager for the Whitlam project, to talk you through Whitlam and also the Whitlam Local Centre site.
Thank you, Simon. So Whitlam is the Suburban Land Agency's newest estate. It's located in Canberra's Molonglo Valley. The suburb is centrally located. It's just 9 kilometres from the Canberra CBD and 5 kilometres from Belconnen Town Centre. It has good connection to the surrounding arterial road network, so it's easy to access. The suburb is in high demand. All our previous single residential sales campaigns have been oversubscribed and have sold out almost instantly. It's in its enviable location, its amazing views to the Brindabellas, along with generous open space amenity and proximity to nature reserves has made it very attractive to families in Canberra. The suburb will house approximately 2,400 dwellings by the time it's complete, and we have a projected population of 5,500 to 6,000 people. Whitlam is the first Molonglo Valley suburb to be located north of the Molonglo River. And this area, which is shown on the map here, is referred to as Molonglo Valley Stage 3. And this map is an extract of the strategic plan for that area. Once Whitlam is complete, there's plans for another 2 to 3 suburbs within the Molonglo 3 area, and they'll be developed over the next 10 years or so. This development of those future suburbs is expected to start in the area identified on that map as Suburb 2. And so it's expected that the people that live in this area will access the Whitlam local shops for their local shopping as well. There is planning and design underway for a high-level bridge across the Molonglo River that will connect the south and north parts of the Molonglo Valley. So that will ensure that there's plenty of traffic that will be passing by the Whitlam area. The bridge is expected to be complete by 2025. Whitlam is being developed in 4 stages. It's a master planned development, so it's all been set out in advance. Stage 1 and 2, which are in the north-eastern section and the central section, have been complete by the Suburban Land Agency, and housing is now being built in those areas. And in fact, residents have started to move into the Stage 1 area. The local centre is shown in blue on this map. It's located in Stage 3 of Whitlam. It's also adjacent to a local, it'll be primary school, which is shown in yellow. Stage 3 is currently under construction and is due for completion in 2023. Stage 4 is located on the western side of Whitlam. It's to the west of that Deep Creek pond that you can see there, and we're about to submit the DA to the Planning Authority for approval for that area. Whitlam has great connections to nature reserves, with direct connection to the Namarag Special Purpose Reserve and the Molonglo River Reserve to the south, and to the Karma Nature Reserve to the west. There is also an extensive open space network within Whitlam, with high quality playgrounds and an active travel network that goes throughout the suburb. There's a bus route for Whitlam which travels around the main ring road, Sculthorpe Avenue, and there's a bus stop located directly adjacent to the local centre. This slide just shows some images of areas within Whitlam. As you can see, we're spending a lot of money on the infrastructure in the estate for the open spaces, the playgrounds, just to make sure it's an area that people are attracted to, that they want to come to, they want to stay, and we expect that the Whitlam Local Centre will be the jewel in the crown of the Whitlam area. I just want to speak briefly about the opportunity that we have in this offering. In plain terms, it's a 1.7 hectare site approximately, and it's located in the heart of Whitlam. The zoning for the site is CZ4 under the Territory Plan, local centre zoning, which allows an opportunity for things like residential dwellings. We expect there'll be around 200 to 300 residential dwellings within the site. Allows for a supermarket of up to 1,500 square metres, along with other retail and commercial opportunities. It allows for a community activity centre. The site is located adjacent to the future primary school, as I mentioned earlier. It's surrounded by medium density housing, which means that there should be plenty of vibrancy and activity that can occur around there with just people coming in and wanting to stay there. It also has easy connection to John Gorton Drive via the 2 roads that you can see on the map.
Many thanks, Simon. So I think that's painted a pretty good picture of the Whitlam suburb. Round about 2,400 dwellings, around 6,000 residents, but we're quite confident that the Whitlam Local Centre will have a catchment much wider than that, given the, I guess, the vision that we have. Before I do talk about the vision, as I mentioned before, we engaged extensively with the community and with industry as we assessed, I guess, the site and the site's release. And that has essentially been summarised and brought together in what is a place brief. So the driving force behind that document joins us today, and I'd like to introduce Nicola Plunkett-Cole, who will talk you through the elements of that particular place brief.
Thanks, Simon. So I'm in a fairly new role for the Suburban Land Agency. It was created at the end of last year, and that is placemaking director. And that is to really try and corral and help foster the applying a place-led approach across the Suburban Land Agency's business. And in this case, this is in particular having a look at the image on the right. It's working with community at a really early stage in land development to listen to what inspires them about the place and what are those finer grain aspects that people would like in this place. And in terms of just, I guess, the definition of placemaking in my role, it is really about putting people first and really helping understand how our work can connect people to people, and that people are connected to place and can help contribute to their places over time. So this engagement has been occurring in the first half of this year, February to April. It involved 4 workshops, and we had 60 attendees overall, and they were quite a diverse mix of people and ages. We had 180 survey responses, and we had some other digital methods, and we also had a youth ideas activity, and you can see some of these in the place brief. So the 6 themes came through, and they reflect the community's feedback, and they align with the Whitlam Local Centre vision, and it's tailored to Whitlam and its residents. And just one other aspect before I go into those 6 themes is that the place brief also took, we asked the community, what do you like and what you don't like? And so you really have a good look at those, because that helps us inform how we might actually represent some of these key themes. So one of the things that struck me was a lot of the word concrete was used a lot in the dislikes. I don't want to look at concrete. There's just too much concrete in Canberra. There is quite a lot of hard surfaces. So that's something that we're really taking on board. So the 6 themes are discovery, and that can be sort of summed up in that this place, people would like this place to spark curiosity. They want to be inspired and stimulated and interested. They want this place to draw them in and then linger and then maybe draw them back as well. Second theme is safety, and that is, I want to feel safe here, day or night, whoever I am. I want to feel welcome and safe here. So the finer grain approach that enables people to feel safe in this place. Third theme is wellbeing, and that's actually a key ACT government goal. The ACT wellbeing framework is established, and we are in a really unique position in being such a small city-state that we actually can really have a finer grain approach to applying wellbeing to this place and really thinking about how it performs for individuals and the community on wellbeing. So this place needs to support and enhance physical, social and mental wellbeing, both for individuals and for the community as a whole. The 4th theme is connection to nature, and that's really obvious in what you've heard about the vision of this site and where this site is located. So maximising our wonderful inherent natural characteristics, and that covers, the river, access to the river, the natural environment around Canberra, which all Canberrans love, around Whitlam, but the views as well, and that extends into connection to country. So Ngunnawal country, and the more we listen to Ngunnawal people, and we've got Namarag just down the road, there are definitely themes of sky country, it's flora and fauna, but it's really that connection to this place. So many opportunities to link in with that. And the 5th theme is diversity, and that is about expressing our unique selves and our ability to do that in this place. And you can apply that through even the quite a finer grain approach to the retail strategy for this, that it is a diverse mix of opportunities for people there. And the final theme is a free community destination, and that's about everybody's welcome. I feel like I belong here, whether I have money to spend or not. There are places for me to sit that, I can meet people here, and we certainly hear that across Canberra in our feedback from the community is, where's the seating, where's the comfortable seating in public space. So the way that you'll see that we have represented these themes in the place brief, and here this one is the theme discovery, is we have each theme is embedded across physical and non-physical aspects of the local centre. There you can see it. So supported by an indicative and preliminary 3D massing of the local centre. And so really you can see that we're trying to represent how we would apply all these different important aspects to the local centre. And the place brief will be finalised later this year before stage 2. And we really, I guess, when looking at this one and the co-location of the school site, really keen to see that Whitlam is a place where there is a culture of walking, for example, because we can see that it's just the co-location at the school and the local centre will enable that so easily. And finally, I wanted to mention that as part of our overall placemaking approach within Whitlam, we do have the SLA Innovation Hub and Display Village being established this year. And part of that, we're seeking currently a place curator service. So that will be a position that is in place later this year, and they will be there for up to the next 3 years. So that's such an opportunity and a resource for this project to that person will be on site, really fostering a sense of place, connecting with community, working with our Mingle team, and really listening to community as part of a seasonal activation program. So it's a real resource that will be able to inform this local centre as it develops.
Thank you very much, Nicola. So you would have seen just on your screen in that most previous slide that some of the hard work that SLA has done has indeed resulted in essentially a reference design, and that vision for the reference design has very much been informed by those elements that Nick was just talking about, and very much based on not just what the community say, but also what we think will be a centre that will be both vibrant but also financially viable. And what we've done to really demonstrate this vision is we have prepared a 3D fly-through video, which I would invite you to watch right now.
Whitlam Local Centre is the latest of the new local centres in the Molonglo Valley to be released by the Suburban Land Agency. With an enviable position in the rolling hills north of the Molonglo River, Whitlam is less than 8 kilometres from the city and surrounded by natural and cultural attractions like the National Arboretum, the Molonglo River Nature Reserve, Mount Stromlo, and an extensive network of nature trails. Whitlam enjoys spectacular views in every direction, including dramatic vistas to the Brindabella Mountains. The community's vision, developed through an extensive co-design process, is for Whitlam Local Centre to be a meeting place for the local community, a buzzing place that invites everyone to stay and enjoy its services with high-quality place design. Whitlam Local Centre will have a new, generous and slow-speed main street addressing the new Whitlam Primary School to the east, and with active retail along the western frontage. An anchor supermarket is located in the southeasternmost block. In the middle of the local centre is a new public plaza and community building, with the plaza extending across the main street as a raised crossing connecting to the school. Above the shops are a range of mixed-use dwellings in buildings of 4 to 6 stories fronting the main street. The main street is supported by a central laneway running parallel through the centre block, which provides secondary access and frontage with pedestrian and cycle priority. This shared landscaped space is fronted by a range of missing middle type dwellings, including flexible live-work terraces. These western blocks help to translate the dramatic drop in topography with stepped courtyards and dual frontage. 2 laneways with grand public stairs connect east to west, including from the new plaza connecting into local streets and the suburb beyond. Whitlam Local Centre will embody the best of contemporary Canberra, building on its memorable landscape setting, and incorporates spaces and activities for people to meet and linger. Its location opposite the future Whitlam Primary School will make it an important place for the community to come together and enjoy.
So I think you'll agree that the Suburban Land Agency has high aspirations for this site, and we certainly are looking for enthusiastic developers that share this vision. And as they say, the devil is always in the detail. So to share some of that detail, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to hand over to Ian Wood-Bradley, who's been the engine room when it comes to coming up with this draft reference design, and is the author of the Design and Place Framework. So over to you, Ian.
Thanks, Simon. Just the background to Whitlam and and the local centre, just to outline how we've got to this position, and to really show how it builds on the ACT planning strategy, which was actually adopted by government back in December 2018. It outlined a vision for future local centres that really outlined a future that where they are more than just supermarkets and car parks, that they're actually central meeting places for the community. There's more diverse, they're more mixed use, and that they become central meeting places for the community to come together. Next slide. If you look at Whitlam, and we've compared it to other centres, and the scale of the centre is actually quite large. This is comparing, the red outline is the Whitlam site, and it's overlaying over Manuka and the core block of Manuka, and it's showing that the actual centre is actually bigger than the core block of Manuka. And what's interesting, the next slide, is that Manuka has a very pedestrian-friendly, street-based urban centre that has a variety of public spaces, including mud lawns, including a range of street-based outdoor cafes and the like, but it's quite diverse, complex, and well-loved within Canberra. Next slide. So building on really what we heard from the community, we've tried to develop this the reference design for Whitlam around some key principles, and that is the idea of a shady main street, which is slow moving with really strong pedestrian priorities. So this is just giving you this is actually Noosa Main Street, a holiday snap. Next slide. The idea of a centre that is designed around walkability and connecting to both the local active travel network, but also the street network, and making the centre easy to walk around, provide a variety of ways of exploring the centre. Next slide. And creating just a diverse range of environments that are really exciting for people to spend time. There's a central lane which we're proposing, which would really takes the pressure off the main street and provides the ability for the service access to development that fronts onto the main street. But that lane actually has a character which is not just a service lane. It's actually a really interesting mixed-use shared space, and this is an example of that type of space in Chippendale in Sydney. This is Kensington Lane, but it shows that it's actually a place that can be used not only for service vehicles, but it's also a great place to for outdoor dining and the like. We also propose that there's a central plaza, and that plaza is a place for people to come together. It's actually for, could include a child play space, places for outdoor dining, well shaded, and it's actually active both during the day and into the evening. Next slide. That what we call the sort of public domain structure of the centre, the structure of it, it shows how the central plaza we anticipate will be about halfway between Manuka Lawns and Green Square in Kingston. It gives you a sense of scale of that space. Very both intimate, but also quite a great place to stay. We are proposing that a supermarket occupy the southeastern corner of the site, but that supermarket would be sleeved by active retail, by also spaces like a gym, a medical centre, and also potentially a community centre that is on the northeastern corner of the site that fronts on to the central plaza. We also propose the idea, and this is something that the community is seeking, the idea of being able to use the roof of the supermarket for, could be urban agriculture and the like. Next slide. So what we get is quite a very green and urban and connected urban centre that also has a particular relationship to the school, and we've taken great care, just next slide, this is showing the relationship of the local centre with the school, and we've done some just very preliminary layouts with education to just give an indication of how the school is directly connected with a cross to the central plaza with a raised crossing. That there's also, we've decoupled the access to the school, the drop-off, set down and pick up function for the school, we've put onto a separate street system. Now, the intention is that the SLA will fund the construction of the main street and also that peripheral street for the school, so they become estate works. And the idea is that that people will have the choice of being able to, park in Main Street and sit down and pick up kids at the school, or use the alternative street system. But that distributed network actually makes the whole traffic network function very well, so you don't get the congestion of other centres. So one of the other features of the centre is this quite dramatic change in level across the site, and we've exploited that with how the built form and the approach to locating major anchor uses on the site. So in this particular case, we have a supermarket to the southeastern corner, and it's exploiting the level change and be able to use that level change to create almost like a pre-dug basement. Next slide. So these images which are in the design and place framework document really communicate our aspiration and establish a benchmark of design quality that we're seeking for the centre. So just running through these images, the idea of the main street, then this dramatic level change, it's almost as though the centre is perched on this stone plinth like a hill town, and it has a very evocative and distinctive response to place. So we have this celebrated in many different ways through, the stairs, these dramatic stairs that run through the site. And so the other aspect of the design and place frameworks, it sets up some key metrics, and they're really around ensuring that we get high quality buildings, the buildings have good environmental performance, and that we have certain principles around the formation of public space, and that we actually get high quality spaces. So this slide actually illustrates how things like building depth is limited to ensure that we get cross ventilation, and that we also show in the image on the right is that we provide for deep soil for deep-rooted planting, so we actually get a very green urban environment that will actually mitigate the impact of heat of climate change. So, and then we go into materiality and amenity. There's a whole part of the design and place framework which sets down our expectations in terms of design quality and materiality. And then we go into some specific detail on each part or block on the site. We've broken it into multiple blocks, and we've indicated what we think at this point in time is the indicative dwelling yield this is a draft document where we intend to get this adopted through a planning process prior to going to stage 2 of the tender process. But we show maximum indicative dwelling numbers, and we show minimum ground floor non-residential NLA on particular blocks, and how waste and basement access is handled.
We'll move now to some of the practical information around the request for tender process. And I'd like to hand over to Cassandra from Independent Property Group, who's handling the sale on behalf of SLA.
Thank you, Simon. So as many of you are aware that this is a 2-stage tender process. Stage 1 of the tender process went live on the 21st of June this year. For people that have questions around the tender, the process, or anything to do with the site, the last day for questions is the 2nd of August, 2022. And the closing date for stage 1 of the tender is the 16th of August at 2 p.m. With that, I would just make note that the tender needs to be submitted through Tenders ACT. So just make sure you allow yourself enough time to make sure you're submitting that tender by that closing date and time. The Suburban Land Agency will notify tenderers whether they are compliant or not by October 2022. And then moving through to stage 2 of the tender, we have been given some indicative timelines at this stage, but they may be subject to change. So at this point in time, they are looking to release stage 2 of the tender in January 2023, and then the closing date would be approximately April 2023. So people looking to submit in stage 1 of the tender, there is a certain criteria that you do have to meet. So the first criteria is demonstrating that you and your contractors have the experience in delivering such a mixed-use site that involves the residential and the commercial components. And then the second part of the criteria is ensuring that you have the financial capacity to deliver this site. You'll notice in the tender documentation that they do talk about being able to have a financial capacity and raising around 150 million to deliver this site over the time frame. Now, stage 2, some of the details that they're looking for, and I guess this is one of the big ones, is providing detailed design proposals as to how you see that site in line with the criteria that the Suburban Land Agency will provide. And then the second part to that would be making a financial offer for the land. Should you have any questions during the tender process, please feel free to reach out to Wayne or myself. Our details are on the screen, but you'll also be sent a copy of this presentation and it'll have our details if you don't grab those details now. Thank you.
All right, many thanks, Cassandra. So I'm happy to open it up to questions. I've just got a couple of clarifying points. So just to be clear for those who've downloaded, I guess, stage 1 tender, you're probably aware, but this is just a full single release of the site. So that whole 1.7 hectares is a single release. And while the design in place framework shows, discrete, I guess, parcels of land with different uses among them, it is a release of a single site. There is no requirement for the handback of any assets back to the territory for operation. It is all under the same release. So I just wanted to be clear about that. We made brief reference to the fact that there's still a little bit more work for SLA to be doing with regards to the EDP and also the DA amendment. So we are well on track with that. As Ian Wood-Bradley has said, this is really the first opportunity following the 2018 planning strategy to deliver a local centre under this new regime. And we've been in many discussions with the approving authorities to facilitate this particular vision and this particular development. So looking now just a couple of questions that have come in. So the first one here is, will the SLA provide financial assistance to prepare detailed design as part of stage 2? That is something that's under consideration. So we'll resolve that fairly shortly and provide very clear direction on whether we will or we won't, and if we do, what amount that will be. But we will issue that, I think, as part of an addenda to this stage 1 tender and be very clear about that. We have another question here about what role will the SLA play once the successful tenderer is announced, and I guess there's an exchange on the site. Some of you who've joined us today will be familiar with some methods that SLA have been progressing, which is under what's called a concept delivery deed. SLA have a real commitment to making sure that we get the very best outcome on this particular site, hence investing so much in the front end to really set the vision. But we will also stay on as part of this concept delivery deed. So that will essentially be an exchange on the site and settlement essentially not being required until DAs are approved. So that provides a little bit of time for that to be navigated through. In terms of the real fine detail about whether it's a single DA approved or whether it's multiple DAs approved over a time period, we can be quite clear about what our expectation is as part of the stage 2 RFT and how that might work. So again, there is an expectation that SLA will still work side by side with the successful proponent in realising this vision and also having that, I guess, approval point of the DA prior to it being submitted. So they are the two questions that we've got thus far, and it doesn't look like we have any others. So if you've got something burning on your mind, now might be a good time to hastily type that in. Just to be absolutely clear, the team here at SLA are very happy to answer any questions if you wanted to provide those to SLA, and equally Cassandra from Independent Property Group is also ready, willing and available also to talk about this particular process. We believe that we've, I guess, thought of everything in terms of getting this site out via the 2-stage tender. As I said, there is a bit more work for us to be doing to make sure that as we do go to stage 2, that everything is essentially in place for a design response, and then we can go from there. I should also say it's likely that there's some people as part of this call who may have been involved also in the Coombs and Wright Village project in terms of responding to that first stage tender. I guess I just wanted to be assure those listening that that project, stage 2, is not far away, but we did strike a few challenges in that we won't strike on this particular project. So while it's taken an unfortunate amount of time with end of financial year and all sorts of COVID impacts for the Coombs and Wright Village, we're very close to getting that out. But that aside, we don't believe that we'll have any such delays with this particular Whitlam project. So we are vested, we have a vested interest in making sure that we can get to stage 2 as quickly as we can. There is one question that's just popped in here, which is when will the project delivery deed be available? That will be available in the early stages of the release of the stage 2 tender. So that's being worked on very shortly. So again, we'll make sure that we provide as much information as we can so that you can be clear about what's required of you as part of the tender, and certainly what would be required of you if you're indeed the successful tenderer post-sale. So I think that's all we've got for now. Don't seem to be having any further questions at the moment, so I'll just quickly check with my yep, okay, checking the message. So look, we'll wrap it up there. So thank you very much for everyone for attending. As I've said, we are very, very keen to work with you from this point on, whether it's through the submission of a stage 1 tender or getting through to the next stage. And certainly we are excited about working with enthusiastic developers in delivering this particular project going forward. So feel free to reach out if you need be. As I've said, this session has been recorded, so feel free to review it. Feel free also to distribute it as you see fit. But otherwise, we'll leave it there, and thank you very much for your attendance today.